Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of UnVEXed. I'm your host, Andrew Dolan, joining you from East Grand Forks, Minnesota. Tonight, we're going to be talking all about Game On. It is the official launch here of UnVEXed. The over-under season has started. We were able to have one event, a huge signature event at the Mall of America, and we're bringing in a bunch of folks from that event to share their experiences about what was learned from the over under VRC competition. This is the greatest 2 minutes in robotics, and let's bring in those fine folks that helped us at the Mall of America signature event. Oh, look at those beautiful people! I love you guys. First of all, thank you for volunteering at the event. It was great to have you there. You all brought your times and talents with. It was so cool. So let's do the go around and meet the fine folks and introduce yourselves. So we'll start off with John.
Hey everybody, it's John Queen. How you guys doing? Did you watch Mall? How was MOA? I like it when we call it MOA. MOA was fun. Elvis was there. Did you see him?
He left the building. All right, and another familiar face to the UnVEXed here. We have Christy joining us.
Hi, everybody. I'm Christy Matlack from Richwood, Ohio. I was a scorekeeper at Mall of America. Got to work with these lovely people.
Fantastic. Thank you, Christy. And Zaya.
I probably will try and rule the world. Anyway, so I was at Mall, year 2 of Mall. It's kind of the best way to kick off the beginning of a season, just by showing up to a huge 100-team signature event and watching out how the game plays at that kind of level. Way better than starting the season with like clawbots.
There was some pretty intense competition, to be sure. And last but not least, we have Cabot joining us.
Hi, I'm Cabot McCarver, and Mall is just such a great way to start off the season. I mean, the competition that we see at Mall, typically we're not going to see in our regional areas again until maybe January or so. So you kind of jump into the deep end, and you guys do such a great job of putting on this event. So it was great to be there, great to see all the action, and can't wait to share what I learned.
All right, well, with that, we'll just jump into what Cabot has learned. So you were one of our head referees at the event. So we're just going to go around and share information. What did you learn about scoring this event? What do you think students need to be aware of as they're competing? So we'll just feature Cabot for a while here.
Absolutely. So what I want to let everybody in the community know is that I really liked this game a lot better than I thought I would, because I loved Spin Up. It's been one of my favorites so far. And so my expectations for this game were kind of low, if I'm going to be honest. I didn't think that the action would be as heavy as it is. I didn't think that the kids would get as innovative as they have. And so the more I see this game, the more I like it. I think we're going to go around later and talk about some of the issues that we saw as refs and tips and tricks for refs. But I will definitely say that if you weren't in love with this game like me, give it some time. I think you're going to like it. I love seeing what the different teams have done, all the different designs that they've been able to come up with to creatively solve this year's problem has been great. So that's my initial take is, let this game warm up to you.
All right. Hey, and who among us hasn't done that? Like the game comes out early season, you're just like, oh, this isn't going to be as good as fill in the blank favorite game, right? So I think that's pretty typical. And then once you get into it, it becomes energized. So first takes on the game, Zaya.
I also was kind of lukewarm at game reveal. I was like, no, this could be not super fun. Turns out I was totally wrong. It's actually a lot of fun. I think this might have the charm that's a rare thing to get in a game, and that is fun for the referees, fun for the teams, fun for the audience. You often get like 2 of those, and then somebody has to suffer. I don't think this is going to be one of those suffer games. I think this could be that's great for everybody that's involved, and that's a rarity. And I think we're going to start seeing some pretty intense action earlier in the season, maybe than we did last season, especially around things like defense.
You know what else is intense? Camping.
Please tell me this is now sponsored content for Camping World.
Sorry, dad joke time. All right, Christy, your first take on this season on over-under.
I would agree with both Zaya and Cabot that I wasn't sure how this one was going to play out, and it was a really exciting game to watch. The strategies that the teams had in order to play the game well sometimes were surprising. But I love the action. I love seeing the balls fly back and forth. I love a game that teams have to play until the buzzer rings. And there's constantly action going on, and there's constant movement. And that interaction between the teams is really exciting in this particular game. So I think it's going to be a great year. I think it's going to be a fun game to watch and a fun game to see how those strategies evolve over the season.
All right. And hey, John, we want to know, what team are you on this season? Is it going to be Catapult? Is it going to be Flywheel? Where's John at?
Well, John's going to land on Team Puncher. I'm all Team Puncher this year. All Team Puncher. I don't see this game playing for Flywheel, but kids, Grant said you couldn't shoot it from the other side of the field and put in the goal, so prove me wrong. Make Flywheel the winner this year. I mean, that's it. Challenge accepted. But right now, I think I'm Team Puncher. I think
we've already seen that happen.
Yep, we've seen it.
Where they shoot all the way across the field in Auton?
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Into the goal.
Yes. Into the goal.
Multiple times.
And I think I think we'll see a lot of copies of that. I think we'll see the style of robots were all over the place. I like this game because Alliance Selection, you really need to know what your partner's robot does. Can do, can't do. Is it a match load bot? What can it do? Can it hang? I mean, those are some of the questions. Those are the big things. You can't go in blind and look at the guy next to you and go, you want to be my partner? You need to know. You need to know what they can do. And I think it kind of elevated this game. I was with everyone else when this game came out. I thought it was trash. I mean, honestly thought it. I was like, this is going to be the boringest thing to watch. I'm just going to watch balls go bing, 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 bing. And that's all we were going to watch. But Maul, just like last year, proved it. I mean, we were on a different level. It was unique. It was great. I think this game has a huge potential, a ton of upside. And the one thing I like about this game is the Clawbot can probably compete pretty well in this game. Can probably, out of all the years they've tried, a pushbot make this game, can compete in this game. And that's something we haven't seen yet.
Very cool. All right. Hey, we're going to get into the nitty gritty here. There's a couple of chat messages I want to acknowledge that just flew across the bottom of the screen here. Any comments on those chats that popped up?
Yes. If Hope Robotics is coming to your event, consider armor, protective gear.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
The first time you see it live, you won't forget it. You won't. I was there, and that thud, boom. And I was like, "Whoa, hey! Now we're playing robots."
It's munitions. They're firing munitions. Yeah. That's really all there is to it. Hope Robotics is actually now funded by DARPA. They will be creating the next great military weapon out of a VEXed robot. We had that one comment that came about VEXed. I think that's what's going to get interesting.
Just resonated too.
God, I know.
Sorry,
because they're hollow. Thank goodness it's not as loud as Tower Takeover was. But for hanging mechs, somebody asked about how we think they're going to develop. I think that hanging mechs are going to be a little all over the place. I was surprised we saw as many as we did at Mall, considering how early the event is. I saw a lot of teams make decisions about hanging that I wouldn't necessarily have made, simply because of the way it does suddenly change the score because it's relative scoring. So I think teams should really pay a lot of attention to how that relative scoring is going to impact, and they should probably be playing those scenarios out before they make a decision, so they know in advance if their opponent is doing this and their alliance partner has done that, should they or should they not go for an A or a B level hang, or should they just leave it alone?
Yeah, we didn't see as much hanging as I was expecting, especially the high stuff. But hey, let's go back for a minute now. It is beginning of a match. How was this? What did you learn about initial setup of the match? Let's begin there. Then we'll go into autonomous, and then talking about match play, things that were happening during the driver control piece. So let's begin with the setup. Any comments that you guys have that you learned about setup of the match and things that the teams should be aware of?
Well, I
Can
think
I start
the
with
GDC
this one?
was really. Oh, go ahead.
All right, Christy's going.
Sorry, Kabo. I
And then we'll
think
go to Kabo.
with setup, it's extremely important to have 2 containers of tri-balls. Some teams or some alliances put them both in one corner, and that was fine, but at least they had the option. So you have to have something to contain all of those match loads outside of the field. So those containers are key.
Just to
When it
clarify,
comes to resetting, what's that?
just to clarify, you're talking about 2 containers per alliance, so 4 total on
Correct.
the field.
Correct. So we put 11 tri-balls and an alliance ball in each container. That made field reset extremely quick because you just filled up your containers with those match loads, and it leaves you only 12 tri-balls left on the field to reset. So that goes very, very quickly, and it gives the teams the option of what corner they're going to use those match loads, and they can work together and share those. But that was extremely effective, is making sure that you have something to contain 22 tri-balls at the side of the field. Sorry, Kabo, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Your turn.
No, it's fine. I just wanted to say that I think I love that the GDC was so, I think, deliberate on this game, to where teamwork is so critical. You can't just show up at the field last minute, like in so many games, and just kind of set up wherever, in whatever spot is left. I think this year you have to talk to your alliance partners before you get to the field to determine who can score the alliance tri-ball and who can actually remove a tri-ball from the match load corner. We did not see very much of that, which kind of surprised me. And I think a lot of the teams that played at Mall of America are going to be able to remove tri-balls from the corners at their next tournament. So more than ever in the last, this is my 8th season, and in the last 7 seasons, I think this season more than ever, you have to know what your alliance partner is capable of before you get to the field.
I love it. That's so important.
One more thing.
It's great for the student. Yes.
Okay. And you absolutely have to mount your tags in a way that they will not fall off. So if you are using IQ pins to hold your plates on, they will off because you will get hit and those plates will come off. And then we don't know if you're red or blue, and we don't know if you're double zoned or not. We don't know if you're touching the proper elevation bar or not. So if you are using IQ pins, stop or figure something else out, or add a rubber band. But it is absolutely critical this year that you do not lose your plates during the match. And you have to come to the field with the proper color plates.
Excellent. Hey, Zaya, I'm going to kick it over to you now. We are just in the middle of autonomous. There was a chat question here about what happens when a robot gets knocked over. But the other piece I want to have you answer here is, what about when autonomous is finished? How is that scoring going? What are head referees really watching for?
It's not as unpleasant as scoring autonomous was in Turning Point, but it's close. because you've got things that suddenly become scored for the other alliance, even though they're in, red alliance's net or blue alliance's net. It's the opposing colors tribal, so you've got to score it. Scoring for this in autonomous is a little sticky. So it's really important that you, as competitors or as other field officials, are really counting and double checking, and maybe hold off on the yelling at the field officials until after they've finished doing all the math in their heads. This is a game where sometimes you can just look at a field and know exactly who won Auton. It's clear as day, but at least half the matches that we saw, you've really got to count absolutely everything, or risk Auton being not doled out correctly. And we want to make sure that that's done correctly. So hold off on the yelling at us about something until we're done counting. And it's messy to count. So use your scorekeepers, make sure they're really good at it, and then rely on them to be your like fourth or fifth pair of eyes. And always double count and confirm. Oh my gosh.
Right on. Yeah, it was nice when you had games that, even the MC that doesn't know very much can just be like, oh, Blue's got it. But not the case here. You actually have to count.
Really got to do the math.
Yeah. All right. So any other thoughts before we close out the autonomous scoring piece of this and move on to match?
One thing I have on the autonomous piece, teams, if you do not agree with the store, you better tell us before we start driver. And you have every right to go, whoa, wait. And we can just count it out loud, and we'll just show you they got 5, you got 4, they got 3, they got 2, and we'll just make it easy. But don't go into it and then after the match go, well, I think I want autonomous. We can't rule on that. So that's why we pick a winner, and it should be marked, but we say it out loud. It's verbalized. Everyone knows. Once you agree, then we'll move on. That there is an onus on your part as a team.
And if you're a ref or a scorekeeper, do not hesitate to get on the field right after autonomous, because the scoring on this, because it's 2 corners that break the plane of the goal, and you just can't tell from outside of the field whether there are 2 corners sometimes or not. So we took our shoes off a lot and yelled at people in opposite corners a lot. Does that look like it's in or not? So take your time with autonomous scoring. And because of the way that the win point can change, like the rankings completely, be sure that we're giving the teams everything that they deserve in autonomous. Take your time.
So mental note here, we need to have UnVEXed swag made up, red and blue Crocs.
Well, I'm feeling right.
All right.
You just hold up the top really? For who won autonomous.
Yes.
Back to the old school.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So now we're going to switch into driver control portion. And who wants to take this on first? What are you watching for?
Well, driver control. In watching matches, double zone. When I read it, we read the manual. You took tests. Double zoning. I gotta watch double zoning. It's so easy to see. You can't miss it unless Cabot's not there and she hasn't yelled at everybody to double rubber band their plates and they fall off. Then we might miss it. But it's easy to see. Double zoning is really, really easy to see. A lot of times, blue's double zoned in their end and red's double zoned in their end, so it doesn't really matter because they're in their end and they're not going to take points out. That's easy to see. Touching the match load bar while you're loading match loads is going to be the biggest thing. Hovering over the field. We do have a rule that says stay out of the field. But we have these match loads and we want you to lean into the field and put them in a robot. So maybe right there it was a little confusing. But safety, make sure you're out. You should only be over putting it in a robot. A whip onto a robot is the way it's printed, and then the hand comes out of the field. Try not to hover. Safety first.
Yeah, and hey, we saw a lot of gloves, really grippy gloves that helped with loading of the tri balls, because you have smaller hands, they may not be able to grab them, and that was a thing. Like teams were going to grab the gloves.
I heard Haunted is making these gloves for their. They're going to have these Haunted logoed gloves for their event.
Don't
that you
tempt
can
me.
use.
Don't tempt me to like do branded gloves. Come on now.
Yeah, with like skeleton on one side.
Yeah,
Yeah.
skeleton bones. It's haunted.
I was
It's a
thinking like
keepsake.
Glow in the dark.
Oh,
Glow in the
obviously.
dark.
Yes. All right.
I have
other
to say that
things-
I was jealous of. I was jealous of having gloves or not having gloves as a scorekeeper when tri balls would come out of the field and then they would bounce every which way on the tile floor. That was fun.
All right, so I'll be adding
catch 'em.
gloves for keepers to the list. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Anything else during driver control that you guys would like to share? What did you learn?
Yes. Like John said, match loading is going to be something that you will need extra eyeballs for. So at our regional and local tournaments, everywhere I'm reffing, I'm going to ask for 3 scorekeepers. Typically, you can get away with 2 scorekeepers. But for this game, you need a minimum of 3 scorekeepers because at any given point, 4 robots could be match loading. And that contact area where they have to be touching is not very big, nor is it very visible from any point of the field. And so there were matches where literally all the scorekeeper did was watch that corner, that match load bar, and making sure that that robot is in contact with that match load bar, because anything that is scored could be match affecting at the end. And so we got to figure out where that ball landed. Did it score for them? Did they score for themselves? Did they score for their opposing alliance? How match affecting is this illegally loaded tri-ball going to be at the end of the match? So minimum of 3 sets of eyeballs, in my opinion, as scorekeepers, and then the ref also. For signature events, if anyone is hosting a signature event that is watching this, I highly, highly recommend that you have 2 sets of eyeballs on every single match. There's just so much action because not only are you watching for the match loading, you're also watching for double zoning, like John talked about, and then you're watching for other things like trapping and holding and lifting. There's so many elements on this field, and there's not a lot of wiggle room, so that happened a lot also. I think our trapping counts got better as Mall of America went on, because at first you're like, wait, are they trapped? Are they not trapped? No, wait, they're loading. No, they're, so I think we were able to spot it better as the event went on.
That's definitely going to be one of those things this year that we've had in previous years as well, is no, you're not trying to leave. You're not being trapped or held. You like you're doing a thing in that corner until you're trying to exit that space. The count doesn't begin. So that'll definitely be something we see a lot this year, especially because so much heavy defense is getting played at those match load zones. If you're trying to load tri balls into your robot, be prepared for somebody to come and muscle your robot out of its space. And if you're just trying to get back in there, you're not being trapped or held. You're just not able to go where you want. So make sure you're paying close attention to what actually is trapping or holding or lifting and what's not.
Yeah, I just want to say that between the de-scoring component to the game and the ability to, push your opponent around and get them away from their loading zone, this might be one of the most defensive, most aggressive game plays that I've seen in a game ever.
I think it's
kinda
really
like
important.
Go ahead.
I think it's really important to pay attention to the time. Last year, it was really important for me to pay attention to the time because I didn't want to get hit with a metal nut. This year, it's really important for you as teams to pay attention to the time because there are areas that you can't be at the end of the match. And so there was a lot of reminding the teams that, hey, you need to get away from your opposing alliance bar. Pay attention to that timer and just know where you're at in the match. You also but you also don't want to get stuck under a net, under your opposing alliance's net at the end of a match. So pay attention to that time. also.
Is there anything we need to be watching for DQs particular to this game?
There were not a lot.
I don't think I saw one. I jogging my
I
mind
think there
here.
were like 2.
Yeah.
I didn't.
There were not a lot.
Yeah,
I
I
didn't see
issued
a lot.
one. Yeah, I issued
What was it
one,
for?
and it's because someone was just asked about a lot of tipping robots, and that's what it was over. Because these triballs are shaped in a way that really want to flip your robot over. So if you come upon 2 triballs on just at just the right angle, the triballs are trying to tip you over. Don't worry about your opposing alliance trying to tip you over. The triballs are there to try to like lift you up off the ground. And so I issued one DQ, and it was for an entanglement where they were entangled. We were asking them to come together and disentangle, and one robot just kept pulling, and we warned, and they kept pulling, and we warned, and they kept pulling, and we warned, and then they just pulled hard enough to where the robot tipped over, but completely. But I don't think there were a lot of reasons. GDC hasn't given us a lot of reasons to DQ people for this game, and so I like that. I don't like DQing anyone.
Right on. Hey, we're running out of time pretty quick here, and I want to talk about the wear and tear on the actual field elements. That was another component that many people commented on. So, Christy, we haven't heard from you for a while. So, what do you got to say about the the wear and tear of the field?
Be ready for it. The net is going to take a lot of, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, a lot of maintenance. Where the PVC pipe clips on the corners, we used tape underneath them so that they wouldn't slip off as easily. We did get some net that was torn or ripped a hole. We used zip ties for that. The front sleeve of the net that holds it on the PVC, that got torn up pretty easily as well, because there's lots of robot action right there in front of the goal where they're pushing and shoving in front of there. The plates underneath the tiles did slip around a lot, so you really have to pay attention to, those elevation bars and the base that where all of that comes together. Those can shift, and you got to pay attention to that. What else?
But back to those plates on the elevation bars, a solution there was to actually gaff tape the metal plates to the underside of the foam tiles, and that seemed to solidify things quite a bit.
And Andrew, actually, we taped them down to the floor too. The top of your stage is where we taped them. We taped all the way around that base, kind of hold it in place.
Yeah, because things were
That's
moving
kind of a
like
tricky
that
action.
center.
Yeah, that's a
center.
tricky action. If you're trying to be prepared and tape it down ahead of time, you have to hook everything up. You have to assemble everything and then peel back tiles and tape where the plates are, because everything has to be attached first before you can tape it down, because there's a little bit of shimmy to make sure everything gets lined up and everything gets connected correctly. So you got to get it all attached. Then you've got to peel back tiles and tape down those plates underneath.
You take when you're building
the front
is a smaller space or a smaller standoff, so you really squeeze those tiles between the plate and the game object.
Yeah, and I've also heard comments that we should use red Loctite on the little standoffs on the metal plates.
I guess you're never getting those back.
Nope. Hello.
The front of the nets that go into the round base, those, if you at the beginning of your tournament just try to pick it up. If you can pick it up, the robots are going to pick up that pole that goes into that base, that colored base. So when you're putting it together, take your time to really tighten that collar. And then Hank from Brentwood Academy actually gave me a tip to attach that collar as high as you can on that base and just really tighten down on that. We didn't have any nets come up on the front, but in scrimmage and during practice, they come up all the time. I'm seeing it all over the place. And so for your tournament, be sure that you really tighten that collar down at the front of the net.
Excellent. Well, we're running out of time here, so I'm going to ask for some closing thoughts on from each of you guys, and then we'll shut down this episode and find you next time. So, John, let's kick it off. Closing thoughts on over under.
My closing thoughts. I love this game. I can't wait to see where we're going. I have some ideas, but prove me wrong. And like and subscribe below. Make sure you do that. See, it's right there. Do it.
All right, Christy.
I am really looking forward to the variety of different robot designs that this game is going to bring. There's so many different tasks and so many different ways our creative students are going to find to solve it. And I don't think that we're going to have that one meta design. I think we're going to see a lot of variety, and I'm excited to see that.
Yes, me too. I love variety in design. Zaya.
Oh, the way I always close thing is to go be awesome, but they're going to do that anyway. I think the big thing for this season is going to be watch for defense. It's going to be a lot of it this year. This is going to be a really intense game. Please build your robot to withstand the amount of bashing it's going to take on the field. And don't use caps nuts. Maybe use the nylocks.
Yes.
Yeah, some students are talking about 6 motor drives as a must just to be able to battle and push. That's crazy. Doesn't leave a lot of hardware for other things.
YY.
Yeah. And Cabot.
Well, my takeaway from Mall of America was that I just love all the teamwork that is built into this game, from the moment you set your robot on the field for autonomous and figuring out who's going to do what task, all the way through to making sure that, we're both, we know which zone our alliance partner is in, and, to defend our goal, we need to make sure we're not double zoned, all the way through to alliance selection and knowing who is going to, I think this year more than anything, who can score and who can play defense and who can hang and how high can you hang. I think that the relationships that are going to be built through the design of this game is going to be something that's really cool to see. And I can't wait to see the nationwide teamwork and alliances that come out of this super cool game.
Most excellent. Well, that's going to wrap it up, unless we have anybody that's on the live stream that's got questions for our fine panel here. Any takers? It's right down there. Is that John Queen?
I'm right here.
Look at that. Just nothing but love for the man.
I try.
All right. Well, I don't see a whole lot of other things flying around here other than just love for John Queen, which there's never enough of that. So thank you all for joining us for another episode of UnVEXed. We'll see you guys on our next episode. If you've got ideas for what we should be talking about, if you want to be on the show, if you want to contribute, email us at theworldunvexed@gmail.com. Like and subscribe to this channel, and we're here to serve you. Also, check out all of those coach videos that we produced prior to the Mall of America. There's tons of content out there. We brought in lots of great experts, and they were able to share their knowledge, and I think it's fantastic. If you know of people that are starting up new teams, check it out. Or even if you've got existing teams, we can all learn something from each other. None of us know everything, but together we know it all. Thank you all. Have a great time.